Welcome back, everybody, to your El Paso Running Podcast. I'm your host for the show. I'm Dr. Maria Fuentes, and each episode we dive into expert advice, inspiring stories, and the latest running trends and the local events, helping you stay informed, motivated, and connected. As you can see that right now we're having like a great booming and in running events, like the numbers in the local 5Ks and even the those marathons and half marathons are just increasing. They're just booming, and it's so great to see the community getting out there, running, getting motivated, and like working on their health and trying to stay fit and stay strong and healthy. But sometimes you're gonna see that you start running, and that's when a lot of injuries start to popping up, right? Because we don't know how to train. We think that always more is the best way to go. Sometimes the more is not always the best way to go. We have to learn how to build up that distance, how to improve those, when to work on speed, how do we become better runners, right? And this is where like we go ahead and request advice from the experts and coaches. We have like wonderful coaches out there here in El Paso. I know there's like wonderful coaches that we have. And if you're really serious about running and trying to improve your times or just, getting better at it, I always advise, try to invest in having a good coach. Having a good coach will always help you become like a stronger runner. I think it's a right investment for yourself. You learn how to train better, how to become like a better runner, how to build your distance, how to build that speed, So I think it's very important to reach out to their coaches. So talking about this, I have a wonderful coach today. He's David Jackson. He's a certified personal fitness and running coach. He competed in the Pennsylvania State High School Cross Country Championship as a prep. He also competed for several Air Force track and running teams, both domestically and overseas, and twice ran a qualifying time for the Boston Marathon while enlisted in the military. Post-military, he competed on the track team at UTEP, where he majored in kinesiology with a minor in Spanish. As a master's track and field athlete, master's is any runner 40 years and older, he competed at various world championships, which includes Australia, Puerto Rico, France, and Finland. He's currently training for himself and other master athletes for this year's North, Central American, and Caribbean track and field championships, along with working with some of El Paso's top high school runners on conditioning during their off-season. I follow him on social media, and he's always placing. He's a phenomenal runner, so I am very happy to have him over so he can guide us on how to start training, especially for us masters runners or adults that are barely getting into the sport. So we need advice from people like that, from him. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming over. So tell us, David, you're a fantastic runner. You're phenomenal out there. I love seeing you, always placing and your running journey and all of that. How did you get into running? How did you start?
That's a good question. I guess basically because I wasn't really good in other sports.
Okay.
That's probably with a lot of good distance runners. That's probably a common theme. I started, I think we all, as young high school guys, or I was in middle school at the time, we wanted to be football stars, football in the United States, American football. And I didn't have the body type for football, and I just didn't. And I just tried different other sports, and I noticed a trend. I didn't really have the skills for the other sports, but the common denominator was that when it came to the conditioning part of the sports, I was better than anybody on the team. And a kind of a funny story is, I was on the football team, and, I just kept trying and trying. My first year, I sat on the bench. I was not only the second string, I was the third string. And my second year, I'm sitting in the bench. I never got to play. And the track and cross country coach came over to the all of us guys that were sitting on the bench, and he goes, you know, you guys work just as hard as those guys out there playing on the football field, but you sit the bench because you don't have the body size or whatever. And he says, if you come out for track, everybody gets to run. There is no bench. We just make another race for you. And my friends and I, we looked at each other and like, really? Well, that sounds good. We'll go out for track because we'll actually be able to get in the game and actually do the sport.
Actually do something.
And do something instead of sitting on the bench as a reserve. So we ended up going out for track, and we just had so much fun. The coach was really cool. We listened to music. It was back in the days where they had the big boom boxes, and we would run our sprints. And while during our rest periods, we'd listen to music and dance to music and run. This is cool. Football coach, you know, he would yell at us and scream at us and was mean.
Yeah,
you know,
this was fun.
Yeah, track was so much fun, and we just enjoyed it. And I noticed that I was just really good at it.
Okay.
Yeah. I just to the point where by the end of that track season, we won. My first year of track, we won the city championship.
Oh, nice.
And I credit my coach. I think he's just a genius, my high school coach. Everybody on that team that won the championship were the guys on the football bench that couldn't play football.
Really?
Yeah.
So see, guys, maybe you're just in the wrong sport.
So I think he knew. Yeah.
And when was this? What school was this?
This was in Pottstown, Pennsylvania.
Okay, back in Pennsylvania. Okay, nice.
Yeah, I grew up. It was suburban Philadelphia.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you fell in love, I guess, with running back there, like with track?
Well, with track,
Had that connection?
I had that connection because for football on the off season, I was a really hard worker, and the first year I just got knocked around. I wasn't able to. I just wasn't really good at football. So during the off season for my second year, and this was in middle school, I was like 7th grade. I went to the track and I'm like, I'm going to work out every day over the summer. When I come in for my second year of middle school football, I'm going to be a starter. I'm just going to work harder. So I went to the track every day, and I would run a mile, then 3/4 of a mile, then a half a mile. And plus I rode my bike to and from the track. So to get just in better shape. So when I came out for football, what had happened, I was in good shape. But I was so skinny because I had lost so much weight from yeah, so.
So you were the fastest one, but you were just.
Well, I really wasn't the fastest one because there were guys that were, and that's probably why I didn't get to play. I wasn't fast, but I could go a long time.
You were just good for endurance.
Because it was almost the common theme in every sport that I tried. I tried baseball. I didn't have the coordination skills, but when we would have to do conditioning, we would have to run around these 3 or 4 baseball fields like 3 or 4 times. I was always the first to finish.
Yeah.
In football, we'd have to run around the stadium. Wasn't good. I was always the first to finish. In soccer, we played soccer in gym class in school, and I really didn't have the skills as dribbling and kicking the ball. But I would always score a lot of goals because I would just wear people down. By halfway through the game, they were just so tired that I could just score so easily.
That was a great strategy. That's a great story. And then from there, did you continue with high school on track and field in college?
Yes, I continued through high school.
Did you become like a star, as a track and field star?
Yeah, in high school. It's kind of a side note story. I didn't actually go right into being a distance runner.
Okay.
Because when we did go out for track, the coach asked us, what event do you want to do? And in football, the football coaches are like, you're going to I'm going to put you in this position. So my friends and I were like, wow, he's even asking us which race we want to do. And this is really cool. And we looked at each other and we said, well, we don't want to do long distance. That looks kind of hard. We see the cross country guys and they're like throwing up and falling on the ground and just so tired. I think we'll run. I know I'm not really fast at like short distance, so maybe the 200, something in
200?
between.
Oh, you were a sprinter.
Yeah, so I was a sprinter for one meet, and we actually did pretty good. He had like my coach. We were on the freshman team. I was actually on the freshman team as an eighth grader. So because at that time in Philadelphia, because of the weather, we had indoor track in the wintertime. So we practically ran year round, and we actually, I think we got fourth. It was a relay. Like a 200-meter
yeah.
relay. Each person ran a relay. I think I ran for like 23 seconds was my time or something like that. So we maybe got fourth, but we broke the school record for freshmen. And my coach was just saying, "Oh, you guys did so good. It was just so great. You broke the school record, and you guys are going to be so good. I see potential in you." And my friends and I were like, "Oh, he just wants us to go out for a try. It's not like we broke the real record. It was just a freshman record. That's nothing." So the next day, and I credit this, my coach, genius, my high school coach, he knew that everybody wanted to run the short races, the 100 meters, because that's where all the glamour is, and the sprinting. The distance races, it's hard and you suffer and you have to. No one wanted to do that. So the day after the track meet, it was on a Monday. He goes, "Okay, I want everybody, we're all going to run 4 miles. Just run at your own pace. We're going to have fun. Here's the route. And, it's just going to be fun." He says, "Even the shot putters and the throwers, you guys can run 2 miles because we need to run distance no matter what event you're doing. You need the conditioning, and this is going to help you later in the season."
Oh, he was smart.
Yeah.
He was just putting that in your head.
Right. So we're like, "Oh, okay." And he didn't make us run fast. We were talking and having fun, and we were running through we ran down to this creek, and we just came back, and it was like 2 miles out, and it was a loop, 2 miles out, 2 miles. And I'm running with my friends, and one by one, they were like dropping off. And I just kept running the route, and I just kept going, and it's like this is great.
I think it was a test from your coach.
Oh, it was definitely a test. It was
to see who got it.
Exactly. So I come back, and I'm the first one back, and I'm like 10 minutes ahead of the rest of the team, and the coach is like,
"You."
"Yeah, you just ran 10 minutes faster than anybody else, and you even ran faster than the distance runners. You are a distance runner. I'm putting you in the mile next week." And I'm like, "The mile?" I'm like,
"What are you talking?"
I was like, "I'm a distance guy." He says, "Oh yeah, you just ran 4 miles. You even beat the cross country guys that specialize in that."
Oh my God, dude.
And I was like, "The mile?" I'm like, "Well, I just ran 4 miles, and that didn't seem that bad. It's only 1 mile, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, just 1 mile." I'm like, "Well, I just did 4."
I kind of don't trust your coach.
Yeah, I can do a mile. That's nothing, So I ran the mile that next week. And so he takes me into inner city Philadelphia with all these good guys that have been running for like 4 years.
So you didn't even know, but he was prepping you for that.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And there's like 35 people in the race. And I'm this eighth grader that's running with high schoolers. And I ended up getting 14th out of 35.
Oh,
and
wow.
Never ran
like before, it was your first.
Yeah, and he was just like, "See, I told you you're so good." I'm like, "Really? That's good?" "Oh, well, I guess so." I ran a 5:14 mile, and
a what?
5:14.
Oh,
it was,
wow.
Yeah, for
Oh, my
I was in 8th
God.
grade. Yeah. I didn't know, so I just thought that was average. And he was like, "No, that is really good." I'm like, "Really? That's good?" So after that, and I said, "Well, you know what? I kind of liked it because the short distances are really fast, and I kind of like it the longer distances because it's more relaxed. I don't have to force myself." And so by the end of that year, of that season, actually not even the year, it was the end of the season. It was like 6 months. I had gotten down to 4 minutes and 53 seconds. We won the city championships, or as a team. I had run the third.
Those are like top numbers right now, David.
I was a freshman, I say, but it was really 8th grade. I had ran 4 minutes and 53 seconds, and I was the third fastest time in the history of my middle school. And my middle school, because back east everything is old, my middle school was founded in 1896. So it was like the third fastest time since 1896.
Wow.
So by then I was hooked,
Okay.
And then, this is great. after the end of the season, my coach is like, okay, over the summer, I want you to run every day. You and some of the guys on your team, our team, we had such a good team. I can't wait to get you for high school because we're going to have a great cross-country team, and you're going to be one of our top runners in cross-country. So just train. And my friends and I are kind of looking at each other, and he goes, I'll see you in like 2 months over the summer. So, and then he leaves, and we look at each other, and I ask him, I'm like, what's cross country? And he goes, I don't know, but he says we're going to be good in it. So
let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah. So cross country comes. We win the city championship in that.
Oh my God, David!
And,
You're like we're born for it. You're
cross
natural.
country is 5K or 3 miles 5K. So at the end of the season, my coach is like, well, how would you like to go to the National Junior Olympics? And I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go. And he goes,
Did you go?
Yeah, I did. I competed. Well, the first year I went to regionals and I didn't quite make it. 2 of my other teammates made it.
But like 1 second or how far? Like
they took the
far did
top
you?
12, and I think I was like 15th or something.
Oh, like there
in
probably.
the region of the whole East Coast. Yeah, but that was my first year. So then he's like, well, I want to see how you do in a 10K. I think you could really try it too.
I love your coach.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Oh,
lovely.
yeah. And he's like, you did such good in 5K. And I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'll try 10K. I ran the 10K, I got second. Yeah, and my first 10K.
And what was your time by like that time?
It was, I want to say 36 or 37. I think it was like 36.50 or something in my 10K. So then, okay, this is like maybe 6 months later after track season, we did second track season, we did so good. And then he's like, there's a half marathon coming up. Maybe you might want, I don't want to force you, but
I
think you might be good at that. And by then I was like, whatever you say, I'll be good. I'll do it because every time you say that, I do good.
Something good happens.
Yeah, entered me in the half marathon. I win it. In the high school division. Yeah, I was first place. Yeah.
So you ran your first half marathon. What age?
It was
high school.
I was 15.
Yeah, 15.
Yeah,
nice.
and I ran like an hour and 23 minutes.
Wow.
I was 15.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was maybe 6 months after that, or maybe a year after that. It was a year after that, and I had done cross country. By then I was like I was all city and all the top runners. And he's like, this cross country season's over, and there's a marathon, the Philadelphia Marathon coming up. I think you would be really good in that. You don't have, and he was so smart. He never forced me. You're going to,
subtly.
Yeah, you don't have to, but I think you should try it. I think you would be really, really good at that. I'm like, I'm ready. You think I'm going to be good? I'll be good. Of course, I win it. I was 16 years old. I ran 250. And I had qualified for Boston, but I was too young because Boston you had to be 18.
Yeah, you have to be 18.
Yeah.
So you were not even 18.
No, I was not even 18. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, he was just a really good coach. I think he used reverse psychology.
Yeah, he knew how to work.
And he was a runner himself. I mean, he was as a master. He was like 4th in the world as a master in the 800 meters. So, he was. I think he was a genius. He was better than any college coach I had, and he was. And he never really forced us. I think probably after my first year, I knew I was good, and I would tell my coach, do you think if I'd start doing 2-a-day workouts, would I get better? Like maybe I can do some workouts because I'm starting to get good and I really want to get better and win states. And most coaches would say, I want you to run in the morning. And he was like, maybe you might get good if you want to run in the morning. You can if you want, but I'm not going to force you. I don't want you to burn out. And I'm like, I'm doing it. So
I'm doing it.
Yeah. So it was, after dinner that night, the morning had passed, and because he had told me that afternoon after practice, I'm like, I'm going to get in another workout. So after dinner, I snuck, I went out of my house at 7 o'clock at night, and I'm doing another workout. And I come around the corner, and there's another one of my teammates that overheard, and he's doing the same thing.
Doing the same
and we're looking at you. So long story short, our whole team won the championship again so my school was for track. It was like, really, really, I think we kind of set a lot of Well, I think we were always good in track, but we kind of continued the tradition to be good in track. So we kind of had a standard. Did we set the standard for everybody else to?
Nice.
Yeah.
And are you still like in contact with your coach?
I sure did. If you look at one of my Facebook posts, actually, it was about a year and a half ago for Christmas. I took my wife over to meet him.
Oh, I know you guys were there. That's true. Yeah.
And we had lunch with him, and we ran a 5K there. He had came to watch us and cheer us on. He's still in shape.
That is so nice.
Yeah. So, but he had told me.
What's his name?
His name is Lawrence Harvey.
Well, kudos to Lawrence Harvey.
Yeah. And I actually went back to my high school reunion. This was maybe about 10 years ago, like my 45th high school reunion, and my classmates were, "Oh, David, boy, obviously you look at you still run. I can tell you." And one of my classmates that he wasn't a runner, and she goes, "My son runs cross country now for Coach Harvey. After all these years." I'm like, "Oh, that's nice." And you know what? He came home one day and he goes, "Mom, who is David Jackson?" And she's, "Oh no, he was this great runner in high school and for Pottstown High School, and he won all these championships and won these races." And her kid goes, "Really? We all thought that he was an urban legend because all the coach ever says is, you're not like David Jackson. When David Jackson was here, I would tell him, if I told David Jackson to run 6 miles, he'd run 8. If I told him to run 8, he'd run 10. If I told him to run, and you guys can't even, David Jackson was running 15 minutes for 5K. You guys can't even break 17.
You are a legend over there."
And the kid was like, "Really, Mom? He actually exists? We thought the coach was making this up. He was a real guy." It made me feel really good.
That is so nice. So did you ever go back to run the Philly Marathon again?
No, I didn't.
No?
I ran it 3 times in high school. Yeah.
3 times. You ran it 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah, I ran it 3 times. Yeah. But no, I want to go back, and maybe I'll go back. My wife wants to run it. So.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. I got the opportunity to run it the last year, and the city is beautiful. The course is beautiful. A little bit hilly in the middle, but everything.
Well, when I ran it, there was no hills in it. That's kind of the secret why I ran under 3 hours. But it was a 2-loop course.
Okay.
And it started at the art museum.
Yes, it still starts there.
And instead of going into the city, it went away from the city down East River Drive, and it went out along East River Drive along the Schuylkill River for 13 miles, and then you would come back. And the only hill in the course was where you would have to go. They put a ramp up the steps to the art museum where the statue.
Yeah.
And you'd go up the steps and come back down and then do another loop.
Oh, okay.
So it was a very, very fast course.
Oh, it's a beautiful course. I don't know the city very well, kind of like to remember like the streets and everything, but I love it because it's kind of like you get the history of the city, and then it's out, kind of like in the country. You see a lot of like trees, and I don't know, like that's where the hilly part is, and then you come back. But it's a beautiful course. Yeah, the weather is beautiful. The people there, it's not so crowded like other marathons nowadays. Yeah. It's well organized. I loved it. I highly recommend it. So yeah, you guys need to go back and run it all over again. So people is like, we have the legend bag of Philly. So that's pretty cool. So David, okay, so we see a lot of people, running these days, like the trend seems to be increasing. It's great to see so many people running out there, right? But you're a coach now. You coach adults, right? I coach master
adults.
runners specifically, or?
Runners of all ages.
Of all ages?
Yeah. Masters, high school, all ages. Little elementary school kids,
Yeah. So I know, it's very hard sometimes. You usually train for what, like marathons, 5Ks, both, everything?
Everything from track and field, from the 50-meter dash up to ultra marathons.
Oh, wow.
All distances.
I'm like, I want to do an ultra someday. Maybe for my 50th birthday, I'm like, do a 50K. But I don't know. It's so it's already on my mind. So, How do you, when somebody comes to you and they want to say, "Hey, David, I want to start running and training for a long distance event," right? Like a half marathon or marathon. What is the most important thing that you think like a runner should consider?
Probably just off the top of my head, patience.
Patience.
Yeah. I just, with my experience, I get a lot of runners that they get discouraged because they think that, and I think is they see runners like my wife and I that are out winning races, and they don't realize that
It's been years and years and years.
my wife has been running for going on 15 years. I've been running for almost 50 years. So, and maybe it's a compliment to us that we make it look so easy,
Yeah.
but they don't realize the work that we've put in and the
implies.
years and years and years of
And
this
it's
building up.
a daily work. Even on off season, you gotta take care of your nutrition, of your strength, and everything. But it's like a continuous build up, and it takes time.
It takes time.
so much time
Yeah.
to build that.
I tell a lot of my runners, especially what the background that they're coming from. And I mean, it's amazing. I could tell so many stories. I mean, I've gotten people that they think they're runners, but they really don't, And I guess in their mind, compared to the average person, they're a runner. Oh yeah, I want to train for the New York City Marathon. I had one lady. It was in July, and New York City is like late October, early November, and she wanted me to train her for the marathon. And I'm like, well, what's your training background? Oh, I run like 2 to 3 miles, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm like, I think you should be, I think give yourself a year or two. No, I can do it. Yeah. And they, and I'm like, you're going to get hurt. That's just too much. You need to build up. Even me, my coach, with his craftiness, he didn't even have I never ran my first marathon until 2 years. And I was running every single day, So, I mean, he built my first year. After 1 year, I did a half. And then the second year, and that was running like 6 or 7 days a week.
And you're right. I think that's a common mistake. I think we all do, like in the beginning, is that we don't spend enough time having that base building. That base building is everything. I think most people that I see is like, oh, I'm going to sign up for a half marathon or a marathon, right? And yeah, maybe the idea is to finish it, but to properly run it, you need to spend some time on working that base, and then from there, then let's start moving up.
Working the base. Another thing that's often neglected, and my coach had me do this. If you listen to my story, how I started from the shorter distances and worked up to the longer distances, a lot of people want to just jump into the marathon.
Okay.
And you really need, if you look at how the top runners develop in the Olympians, they work on their speed first.
Yeah, that's true.
And people think, oh, I don't need speed because I just want to finish. They are thinking in terms of the long distance, like it's 26 miles. But I tell them, I said, work on your speed first. I tell them, my personal best is 2 hours and 36 minutes. Would you rather work on speed first so you can run it in 3 hours? Or would you just keep running long distance and run it in 5 hours?
Yeah.
What's hard? And then, well, you're running it faster. I'm like, yeah, but it's less wear and tear on the body. You would much rather run 3 hours than 5 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
Running for 5 hours is way harder than running for 3 hours or 2.5 hours.
Yes, it is.
So if you work on your speed, you'll be able to run it faster. Therefore, it's less wear and tear on your body. So work on speed first to get faster, because a lot of them aren't really fast enough.
Yeah, true.
And they just kind of grind through the distance, and it's just so hard on your body.
It is.
And your nutrition. I ran fast enough that I really didn't even have to refuel or anything. Back in the days when I ran, and this was like in the late 70s, my first marathon, all I drank was water. Yeah. Because they didn't have, gels weren't even invented. They didn't have,
all these fancy stuff that we have, like super shoes and gels and all
nothing.
these.
No, yeah. So
But imagine that if you did
Oh my
have
gosh,
that
yeah.
nutrition,
I
you
would have
would
ran
just
so much.
flown.
Oh,
Yeah.
If I had the super shoes, I mean, I ran in these little, they look like sandals.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What shoes did you used to wear back then?
Asics.
The Asics?
Yeah, but they
Okay.
weren't called Asics. They were called Anastoka Tigers. It was a Japanese brand.
Okay.
If you could Google it and look it up, this is before they became Asics. But yeah, I mean, they were like they were maybe
Super
that
thin,
thin.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not all these cushiony and super fast shoes
no,
that
yeah.
we
Yeah, with plates and everything. Yeah. I don't know. I see it now and I'm like, how did I ever run in those? Yeah.
in those shoes and just turn water. Well, at least you drank water.
Yeah.
But wait, I was like seeing all these on the marathon. I just ran the San Diego marathon this Sunday, but I don't know if it was the humidity or it was like so hot or what, but I was looking, I've never seen so many athletic looking guys that you see them, like strong and fit, but looking at least, sitting just on the side of the road. And when this guy just like next to me, he just suddenly collapsed. I had to stop to give him my water and a gel and to make sure that he was conscious. And I'm like, sorry, guy, I'm already so late. But are you conscious? Are you good? Okay, you're awake, you're alive. Let me go. But yeah, sometimes you see all these people running, sometimes like not really prepared for those type of distances, right? It's just like, oh, the challenge, I'm gonna finish it. But running a marathon, it takes a lot of work and investment and work, and like you're saying, a lot of patience to build that on.
Yeah, I tell my clients, when I have engaged the long-term approach, and some decide not to go with me because they want the instant gratification.
Yeah.
And I tell them, and I sort of maybe use the same coaching philosophy that my high school coach gave me. I tell them, would you rather, do this crash course of marathon training, cross the line on your hands and knees and saying never again, or do the right type of training, give yourself a little bit more time, be prepared, cross the line with a great experience and saying, I can't wait to do my next one.
Next one, yeah.
Yeah, and because you want it to be a lifelong, commitment or a lifelong habit. Yeah.
And become better at it at every single one of them. Like for this one, oh my God, I got COVID like 3 weeks before it, and it just killed me. I got like all these like lung congestion and chest pain. I got so sick, and I was thinking, should I defer? But I was like, I built so much time. I had like a great training. In all my training, I felt solid with my volume and my nutrition. I focused so much on my nutrition, eating the quality of carbs, not just in taking calories, but just focusing on my food and my run. And I felt so strong. And at the last minute, you get sick, but something you're not even expecting. So I feel that it was because of the training and the good nutrition that I was actually able to finish, even if my lungs were not feeling good and all of that. But yeah, it takes, the training definitely takes a lot of that. So when you're working on a base building, how much, let's just talk about the ideal runner, right? Ideal person that, what, David, I'm going to work with you 5 years, to a long term, and I'll commit myself. How would ideally would you work a person for a marathon?
For me personally, number one, I would look at their strengths and their weaknesses and where they're coming from, their background, because everybody's different.
True.
I'm not one of the coaches that use I call it cookie cutter training, where they just, here's your workout and this is it. This is what everybody. I guess that's why I'm a personal trainer, because it's personalized.
No, I agree. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say I don't agree, but those the working groups with the same training plan, I don't think it works, because every person, like you're saying, is completely different. And what works for you, that's not going to work for me. Or maybe we're just going to respond different to that.
Yeah, you get people from different backgrounds. If you look at people physiologically, I've got a lady now that is predominantly more fast twitch muscle fibers versus slow twitch muscle fibers. I mean, I can't beat her in a 100-meter dash. She's 60 years old.
Oh, wow.
And she's very, very fast, But when we run anything longer than probably a half a mile, smoker. She can't. So I have to train her differently than somebody who maybe has a big endurance background, but maybe is not good with the speed. So, you just kind of have to individualize it a little bit and tweak a lot of things. And that's kind of the fun part that I like. It's, just kind of adjusting the training to each person's background, each person's physiology, personalities.
True.
Some people like to do, personally for me, and I'm probably more of a middle distance runner is where my strong points is. I'm not a sprinter, but kind of between a half mile and 5K are my best distances. So for me, this may seem weird to you, but the hardest thing for me is long runs. They just they kill me.
Really?
I could do speed work every day. I love doing speed work.
Really?
And most distance runners hate speed work. They just want to run long and slow.
Yeah.
To me, long and slow just like grinds me down. It's just
okay.
it's not, fast, but a lot of them, it's enjoyable. But I would much rather do a workout
Like a track workout, intervals or something
yeah,
like that.
oh yeah. And like even what I'll do now, what I've been doing now for my long runs, instead of like doing a 12-mile long run, I'll do like 12 times 1 mile on the road, and I'll rest each like a minute between each mile. But I'll run those 12 miles, like each 12 1-mile segment, hard, fast.
Okay, so you treat it like a workout.
Yeah, but I
Okay.
still get in 12 miles at the
Yeah.
end of the day. It's a little bit of a different energy system that is working, but to me, mentally,
It works, yeah.
Yeah, rather than just doing a long, slow 12 miles.
Yeah.
For some reason, that tires me out more. Like if I would run 12 miles at maybe 1 or 2 minutes per mile slower, and rather than running 1 mile and then resting a couple of minutes at 1 or 2 minutes per mile faster,
Okay.
I feel better after that. And a lot of that probably has to do with my physiologically, where my muscles, fast twitches versus slow twitch, I have more fast twitch muscle fibers. My wife, on the other hand, is like totally opposite. She hates speed. She'll do
I'm like
long
your
distance.
wife. I'm like your wife.
She can run forever. She's run, when training for her marathon, she does 4-hour runs. Like just nonstop, just goes
Like
out for
goes.
runs. Yeah, that would kill me.
And cheers regards to Regina. She's a phenomenal runner. I love seeing her.
Yeah.
But so yeah, she's definitely distance.
Yeah. So I'm looking at, so like the typical runner, I would just look at their background and then kind of customize just the basic training around their strengths and weaknesses, and just kind of working on their weaknesses probably a little bit more than their strengths. They're already good at their strengths, but you want to, just kind of work on their weaknesses. And then some of the ones I have, I just kind of incorporate with the group. So I have them kind of push each other on their weaknesses or their strengths, and it kind of all falls together. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So you also suggest that working first, and I know a lot of long distance runners, like the elite runners, they were also like track and field stars in the beginning. So they
Right, and
like you were saying, they
work on speed first.
speed first, and I usually see that as a recommendation.
And when you do that, and I think that's what helped me so much in high school, because I started out with the mile, then the 2 mile, and then the 3 mile. And what I noticed when you do speed first, as the distance gets longer, it actually becomes easier because you're running slower at a slower pace.
True.
So, and that's kind of my theory of with speed work, and a lot of pure distance runners, mostly adults and that's a big difference too, where I get a lot of adults that maybe come into running later in life, maybe in their 20s, 30s, or 40s. They don't have the fundamental background in high school to learn a lot of the fundamentals, proper running technique, being efficient, working on speed first. So they come in just doing a lot of long and slow distance. But what I introduce to them, I call it overspeed. If you look at some of the Kenyans in the big marathons, half marathons, or even the track races, and you ever watch when they finish the race and they're running like 4-minute mile pace, and they finish the race, and then they're waving to the crowd. They don't even look. You're like, oh my God, he ran that fast. He does not even look tired. What a lot of people don't realize, they're running faster than that in practice. They're training at 3-minute mile pace, so that 4-minute miles they can run forever, and that's sort of my philosophy with speed work. I call it overspeed. Now, of course, they're not running 20 miles at 3-minute mile pace, but they may do spurts like half mile, 3/4 of a mile spurts, or basically they call them kilometer repeats at like 3-minute, sub 4-minute mile pace, or faster than marathon race pace, and then rest, and then another faster than marathon.
Kind of like a half marathon pace, or maybe 10K pace.
Like 10K pace.
Yeah, 10K pace.
And then they'll rest for a couple minutes, and then they'll do that, and they'll put in maybe 13 miles of work at a minute per mile faster than marathon pace. When you go back to running marathon pace,
it becomes easier.
It feels smooth. I think a good example would be when I was in the Air Force. I was trying to train for the Olympic trials in 1984 for the marathon, and I was running up to 100 miles a week. I got 1 week where I got 102 miles a week, but I was probably averaging around 80 to 90 miles a week. And to get that much mileage in, you have to slow down your pace. I mean, you can't run it fast, so I was running I was probably running, well, at that time, 7 minutes, which is slow, but.
For you, David.
Yeah,
for you, David.
At the time.
For you.
I ended up not reaching my goal. I fell short of the Olympic trial standard.
How sure were you for that one?
How
sure were you for
how old was I?
How sure were you? Did you fall?
How short?
Uh-huh.
Actually, at that time, there were 2 standards. There was to get under, let's see, I'm trying to think how short. I was probably about 7 minutes.
About 7 minutes?
Short of that
and
standard.
Where did you go to, like, for the qualifying race? Which one did you do?
San Antonio.
San Antonio?
Yeah. Well, that's another good question. Actually, it was Houston that was going to be my qualifying race.
Okay.
But I ended up running. It was sort of kind of like a stand. This was actually for like a Boston B standard at the time, and I had a sponsor. He had said if I had run 2:30 or under 2:30. Because at that time, the Boston qualifying standard, I believe, was like 2:58 or 3 hours for the open class. And I had ran, my best at that time was 2:44. But if you ran under 2:30, you could go with your expenses paid. He would pay all the expenses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I was already qualified. But so, I'm like, well, I'll go for that.
Course.
But, getting back to the story, I fell short of my goals, and I was just out of the Air Force. I had a lot of money saved up from leave. So I was training full time. I wasn't working or anything. And all my funds sort of ran out. And I'm like, well, now it's just time to go back and I'll work part time and go to school. And so I didn't really have time to run 100 miles a week. So I cut my mileage back down to 60, and I said, I'm just going to train for 5 and 10Ks and work on my speed. But I'll maybe put a marathon on the back burner. I'll maybe run one in a year or so. And I'll keep doing my long run every 2 weeks. I'll do a long run, but I'm going to focus more on speed. So I cut my mileage from like 90 miles a week to 50 to 60, did more speed, kept in the long run every 2 weeks, not every week, but every 2 weeks. And I decided to run I got asked to run the San Antonio Marathon as a pacer for one of the other runners who's a friend of mine that we all, knew each other. He was trying to qualify for that Olympic trial standard. And so he wanted me to pace him through 15 miles. So I said, sure, I'll pace you. So I paced him through 15 miles, and we were way ahead of everybody else. And he's like, oh, you're running a good pace. We were running like 5:40 pace per mile. You're running a really good pace. He says, can you go another 5 miles? I'm like, sure, this is great. Yeah, and I'm like, gosh, I can't believe. I mean, I was running probably like 30 seconds per mile faster than I did when I was running 100 miles a week off of 60 miles a week. And I'm like, I'm running so much faster now. And we get to 20 miles, and he's like, well, what's your best time? And I'm like, well, 2:44. And he goes, you know, we're on like 2:29 pace. He says, I know you weren't planning to keep going and dropping out at 20, and I made you even go further, but he says, even if you just gut it out the last 6 miles, you'll run a big personal record. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. And I was like, but I'm not officially in the race. He goes, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of it when we cross the finish line. So he takes off, and like, see ya, and he takes off, and I just kind of hang on. And only one guy, or another runner from Mexico, from Monterrey, passed me, and I was still able to get third, and I ran 2:36. I went from 2:44 to 2:36.
36.
I just hung on and ran like 5:59 pace. And of course, I think he ended up running like 2:29.
Okay.
But I couldn't believe it that I had actually ran less, focused more on speed. And most of the training that I was doing, because my marathon pace came out to like just under 6 minutes a mile, 5:59. But in training, I was focusing my training on running like sub 5 minute pace. Like I was running 4:59, 4:50s for my interval training, not all out, but doing mile repeats, half mile repeats. So my body got used to running a minute per mile faster. Than marathon race pace. So when I shifted to the marathon, I was like, wow, I can run 6 minutes all day. My body's used to, so that's kind of the theory. I know those times are fast, but you can apply it to maybe the average runner who say their marathon race pace is 10 minutes a mile. If you start training at
9:30.
No, not even faster than that, like sub 9, like 8:50 pace. Over time, and like you don't want to train at this all the time, but just in little doses over a period of a year or so, a couple times a week, just in short doses, your body adapts. So the body starts getting used to running those. After a while, you know, they'll still be challenging, but that 8:50 pace is like, but you'll notice in your longer runs, they'll feel easier because when you go up to the marathon, which is 10-minute mile pace, oh, my body's used to running 8:50s, 10s. Oh, this is so much easy. I can run for hours at this pace. So that's a lot of people, they tend to focus more on, because they fear the distance. So they're like, I just have to just do more and more distance. But there's a saying where running long and slow makes you long and slow.
True.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, you just piling on the mileage, you'll get good up to a certain point, but then there becomes a point where you plateau out and you stop improving.
Yeah.
And that's where your body needs a new stimulus.
And it's so hard to get out of that plateau. Like,
yeah.
You have to like start like polarizing way too much the training.
Well, what I do is my training, I'm changing the training. My training is totally polarized. The lady that trains with me that's really fast, she always says, I've been with you a year and a half and we've never done the same workout twice. I'm always constantly changing the routine. So it's almost tricking your body, because once your body gets used to a certain thing, and then it's harder to improve. So I'm changing the workout.
That's true.
All the time. We're working on different things. Some days we'll do hills. Sometimes, people ask me, where do you train? And I'm like, we train everywhere.
I just see you guys everywhere. I'm like, what are they doing here? Like, I see you guys sometimes running here.
So
and
we're
everywhere.
what they call it from a physiological. So we're changing the training stimulus. So we're, some days we'll work hills. Some days we're on the track doing sprints. Some days we'll do long distance. So we're always changing it. Recovery is important too. So we're running our easy. And that's another thing. I think people, they run the same speed all the time.
All the time, both. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I had a group of ladies that I trained for the San Francisco Marathon, and I told them, okay, we're going to do our first interval workout. Go ahead and do your warm up. I want you to jog a mile warm up. And they're going out at marathon pace and doing their warm up. I'm like, that's too fast.
Down.
You need to slow down.
Like, slow down.
Yeah. This is warm up. This isn't. So then the workout comes. I'm like, okay, we're going to run
And
this
they're the
amount
same
of pace,
thing.
same marathon pace,
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys only have one gear, I'm like,
Yeah.
you need. So they were running their warm ups too fast, and they were running their repetitions too slow.
Too low. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
And that's when
because-
you plateau
Yeah, and they were just
Exactly.
running the same speed all
the time.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get out of that zone.
Yeah, I guess it is for the. I mean, for me, and that's
Like,
probably,
what do you do when you see like a person like in that situation when they're like you're saying, right? They're doing their easy too fast and they're doing their workouts too slow. So,
Yeah.
how do you push or how do you get that person out of that?
I tell them to put on the reins
Okay.
and to slow down and to take off their GPS or turn it off.
Okay.
And I think GPS is a good thing because it gives you a lot of feedback. But sometimes people become slaves to their GPS.
True.
That's why I'm not on Strava. If I was on Strava, I would be so injured because I would be seeing what other people are doing. Oh my God. Oh my God. I've got to. And I see a lot of at the national and world masters level, the people that I compete
Yeah.
with on the world level that are posting their workouts on Strava.
Yeah.
And it's extraordinary. I'm like, I could never do that. I go to the races. They're never there. You know why?
Yeah.
Because they're injured. They never make it to the
Exactly.
starting
Yeah,
line
yeah.
because they're running these workouts on Strava. They're putting up these numbers, and which are impressive, but they never make it to the starting line because
But
they're
you
always
were saying an
injured.
important point right now. Everybody gets focused on Strava, like impressing on Strava
Yeah.
that their workouts,
Yeah.
they're not really doing what they're supposed to be doing
Yeah.
because they want their Strava numbers
Yeah.
just to be there.
And
So
it's
I feel
pressure
like-
from other people like, oh, so-and-so
Exactly.
is, I beat him in a race and he's doing a faster, he's running 10-minute miles and I'm only running 11s. And that's why I'm not even on it because I would be
Yeah.
so tempted. I would see people that I beat running faster than me in training. I'm like, no, I'm
Yeah,
not
I feel
even
like
gonna-
sometimes, like if I want to take like really like slow and just recover, and so I even have to hide it because I'm like,
Yeah, because people are like, oh, I thought if people saw my work training on Strava, they
Exactly.
were like, I thought he was fast.
oh, it's like leave me alone, private.
Yeah, so I don't even
Pressure of it.
use Strava. I take my easy days
Yeah.
easy. For a lot of people, like watches, like the GPS
Yeah.
watches, or like kind of use it as motivating for me. I have to like kind of put it on another screen or not even use it
Yeah.
because I'd be like racing against the wall. So I'm so competitive.
Yeah.
So you really need to take your easy days easy. And I tell people to go by feel. Don't look at your watch.
Yeah.
The watch it's giving you feedback, but the GPS doesn't know if you had a hard day at work.
Yeah.
If the temperature's 100 degrees. Well, it'll tell you it's 100 degrees, but it's not taking into account.
Consideration for
Yeah,
for your
like
run.
your pace per mile, oh, well, yesterday I did 850 and today I'm doing 920. I must suck. But it's not saying, oh, well, yesterday it was 70 degrees and it's on a flat course. Today you're running hills and it's 100 degrees.
Yeah.
You had a hard day at work, your kids, and your stress levels are high. So it's not taking any of that
Yeah.
into effect. So and my wife and I both, we listen to our bodies.
Your body.
Yeah.
So what is your take based on that? I assume on heart rate training.
Heart rate training, I use the heart rate training as a guide, but I listen to my body first.
Okay.
So sometimes my heart rate will not coincide with how I'm feeling.
Sure.
Like my watch is I'm feeling crappy, but my heart rate says that I'm slacking.
And it's
but-
also susceptible, like if you're dehydrated, if it's hot, if you're
Exactly.
stressed, if you didn't sleep well. I mean, I think it can give you kind of like an idea, at least an idea. If
Exactly.
it's kind of like low, at least the number should be low.
Right.
Because if you're also like on 170 and you're saying, oh, it's recovery, it's not, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you're not on recovery, right?
Yeah.
But at least it gives you an idea that you're not.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's very
So
susceptible.
I use it as a guide.
Okay.
And I would say most of the time it's about right, but there are certain times where it's a little higher than I'm like for instance, today I did a recovery. I actually rode my bike and it was a recovery. I rode my bike about 7 miles or just as a recovery because I did scenic yesterday. And it said that I was like at 121 beats per, which for me is kind of, for me, my age, that's like zone 3.
Yeah.
And I was taking it easy, and I'm like, that can't be right, it's because I could tell how I feel.
Hey,
yeah, exactly. I was like, this is more like probably like 110 or something. It wasn't. So, I kind of taking, but that's doesn't happen very often. I would say maybe 20% of the time. Most of the time, it's about right in that right zone. But yeah, just listening to your body.
Listen to your body.
Yeah, and not try to run your easy days. Easy days are meant for recovery, and I think a lot of people run their easy days way too hard.
I think it's a common mistake.
But then
we all do.
what happens is, I mean, even me, I've kind of pushed myself back. I don't do it as much as I used to, but when I was younger, I was doing the same thing. But what happens when you run your easy days too hard, then you're too tired for your hard days.
Yeah.
And then when you run your hard workouts, they're subpar because you're too tired coming in. So, easy recovery. My coach used to say, cover the distance, like what pace, coach, you need, like on our easy days, tomorrow I want you to run 7 miles easy. What pace? Everybody's what pace? And it's like, just cover the distance. I don't care what pace
Like
it
if
is.
you walk, if you go ahead, just go ahead and just do it.
Well, that's it. And that's another
Okay.
good question now. I mean, a good point that what I've done is I've incorporated, and actually my wife's coach when she lived in Veracruz, and this was a really great idea. And I'm like, why didn't I think of this? He has her do her easy days, like totally recovery days, as 3 minutes run, 1 minute walk.
Okay.
3 minute run. So say today's easy day is 1 hour, and you're running 3 minutes, walking 1 minute,
Walking one.
running 3 minutes. And the reason, and I've incorporated in that, and I'm so much fresher now and I don't have the shame that I'm walking. And of course, it's always inevitable you in a run.
I know
where
somebody
sees you on the walking part, like you're having a good run, and you're like, nobody's around. Oh, I'm hitting my pace.
Yeah.
And then another day when you get a cramp and you're stopping, that's when somebody sees you. I saw you walking. Yeah.
Like, shoot.
Yeah.
Or somebody comes on you that like somebody saw you. I'm like, damn
What are you
it.
walking? But I'm over that now.
Yes,
I don't
I
care what
walked.
they say. Yeah.
So what?
But what that walking does is, because there's this phenomena called cardiac drift, where
Sure.
throughout the run, your heart rate gets higher and higher and higher. So you start out at zone 1, and you get into 2, and then you get into 3. And the recovery runs want to be like zone 2, really, most of it in zone 2. So what that 1 minute walk every 3 minutes,
helps you.
it brings it back down so it doesn't go up. Because if it was left up to me, my recovery runs, they would be like progressive tempo runs. Each mile is getting faster because even though you're tired, the soreness is worked out after a couple miles. Oh, I don't feel that bad now. I know I ran a hard workout yesterday, but I'm feeling good. So that 1 minute walk it brings my heart rate back down. Then I'll go 3 minutes, and then it'll go up to maybe 2, and it'll just about to maybe 3, and then at 1 minute walk, and it'll go back down to 1 and 2. And so it keeps it down, and then my recovery is so much better.
Better.
I do that now without shame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, like we say in Spanish.
Yeah,
Right? And I've noticed also like when sometimes I want to recover faster, like I have a recovery run, and then sometimes in the afternoon I go for a walk with my dog, and that also helps a lot. But yes, walking is good. You should
Walking
be
is good.
proud,
You're
to
flushing
cover the distance.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do tell like some of the people that I coach is like, it's a recovery day. It go as slow. Allow yourself to go sometimes as slow as you want. If you want to walk it, that's fine. Do as your body feels that you fully recover. And I know you had like a good recovery run. When after you're done, you actually feel better.
Oh, yeah.
Than how you started.
I was,
down.
you would be surprised. I mean, when I was at UTEP, and that's one of the reasons why I came to UTEP, because of the Kenyans, and I wanted to see really how good I could be. You would be surprised at how slow some of them run, their recovery runs. It's like super slow. Like they're running, for them, like 10-minute miles, which is like...
Yeah.
So
It's
for them, that's
ridiculous
slow.
for them. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and they And they have no shame about it. They're like, today's recovery, that's the purpose of this run, so I can be fresh for tomorrow. It's not a training run. The purpose. So you want to kind of keep in mind the purpose of each run.
And I think that's very important what you're saying. Like every run, respect the purpose of every run. If it's a recovery, slow down. I mean, take it easy, walk it, whatever, feel fresh, recover. So when you're have your speed workout, now you're gonna go ahead and cry in that one and suffer. But you are able to see the difference in those numbers, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be surprised how slow my wife and I run. They're like, "Oh, you guys are fast runners," but on some of our recovery days, because we've run so hard, we're recovering. Our recovery days, we're running 12 and 13-minute miles. Yeah, people were like, "What, you? But I thought you were fast." They're like, that's why I'm fast. But our hard days, we're running like 5-minute miles.
Now you guys are like super fast.
Yeah, so and the reason why we can run 5-minute miles
because you recover.
Because we're running 13 on our easy. And
exactly.
we'll take, and I notice as I'm getting older, some days I need like 2 or 3 easy days before I'm ready to run hard again.
Yeah. And when you're talking about like these easy days and workouts, how do you usually build like a good week of training? You have your long run, you have how many easy days, how many speed workouts do you incorporate? I know everybody's different. So of course, it's hard like to have like an ideal, but kind of like in the schedule, what's important to have? At least one speed workout, one long run, a couple of easy ones?
The trend now is because of the way our calendars are set, our 7-day weeks, people try to cram everything in. Like basically, they try to get 2 hard workouts and a long run in a 7-day week. The trend now, and even with the world-class runners, and what I've been doing for years, is putting that more on a 10-day cycle, just to give you more recovery days.
Okay.
When I was younger, in my 20s, and even probably into my 30s, I was able to do basically 3 hard workouts a week. I would do an endurance interval workout, like long intervals or a tempo run on Tuesday. I would do short sprint speed on Thursday, and I would do a long run on Saturday. And then, now as I'm older, it's taking me longer to recover. So I'm basically doing maybe like 3 hard workouts per 10-day cycle. And with my long runs, what I've noticed too, I think this could be beneficial even to people of all ages, really. Instead of doing a weekly long run, and this is another thing I got from Mexico and with my wife's coach, they do a long run every 15 days, so every other week. So, and I found when I ran my best marathon, 2:30 marathon, I wasn't doing a long run every week.
That's when you book it every 2.
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks,
yeah.
Right?
So, say for instance, I would do a long run. I'd do like a 19-miler. And then the next weekend, I would do like a 12-miler. And then the next weekend, I would do like maybe an 18 or 17 or 19, whatever. So I wasn't doing a long, I'd do maybe a medium length run that weekend. Because if I just feel like I see a lot of runners, like they kind of use that long run as the cornerstone of, of their training. But if you think about it logically, if you're doing like a 20-miler every weekend, you're not recovered until that Thursday, and then it's time to do another 20-miler. So when do you have time to do your speed and your weight training and all that other stuff?
You're pretty much just recovering to have like the long run again.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're not fitting in anything else, let alone your strength training, your stretching. You're just running a long run, and then you're recovering. So you want to kind of space it out and give which tends to, or not tends, but it leads to the point that you need to schedule more time for your marathon. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to do a marathon in 3 months, you really need to space out your training and think more of like 6 to 9 months, and kind of ease into it that way, versus this cramming. It's just, you're just trying to cram in too much.
Okay. Yeah. And after a marathon, how much will be ideal to take some time off or recovery? How do you work your recovery after a marathon?
I I listen to my body, not my mind, my body, because
Sure.
after if you have a bad marathon, oh, you'll take time. But if you have a good marathon, you're like, oh wow, that was a good. You want to come back too quick?
Yeah.
The rule of thumb, and I probably really don't go by it, but the rule of thumb is for every hard mile that you race is a day. So a marathon is 26 miles, so that's 26 days. So it's
almost a month
almost
off.
a month.
Off completely?
Not off, but just recovery.
Do you recommend like take walk because I've been taking walks. I'm like I just came
no.
back.
Yeah, walks
and I'm
are
like
great.
I'm just going for walks, and then I suddenly feel like like jogging a little bit, like 13, 14 like pace, like just slowly jog. But I feel like I need that slow body
Oh, yeah.
movement. So I'm like I don't know. I know my coach told me 2 weeks off, but I'm like I need some movement. I need just to walk and move a little bit. It's
Yeah, I would say there's a term called active recovery
Yeah.
and inactive recovery. So I would say active recovery, just doing something if you feel like running, but just not forcing it or not.
like a slow jog movement.
Historically, for me, post-marathon, it's usually been about like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah, I usually take two. Like
Yeah.
for the last one from Philly, in November, I took all December off. I didn't even went on a trip. I'm like, you know what? It's gonna be 1 month off. And when I started back in January, I felt like I was dying back again with the running. But actually, I felt I had like a great training cycle.
A lot of it's mental.
Yeah,
too.
true.
The body.
And you also need that mental break as
The
well.
mental break, yeah, because you're in shape, your body will
Yes.
snap back, but mentally, and that's a big thing about mentally, as they say, so much of it's mental.
Yes.
So, and that's another thing I see with the people I train. I think that's sort of the difference. If you look at elite runners, or somebody maybe that's a fitness runner that wants to make that step up to the next level, to be like my wife and I, and be the age group winners or whatever. I see that they want to, but they have to kind of change their mentality a little bit. If you look at kind of like disassociative versus associative, I use that as an example. A good example would be of disassociative behavior in running would be running a race and listening to music. And when you get tired, you put on your favorite song, and that's going to rev me up.
Okay.
But and there were studies done with this, if you look at elite runners, they're using associative behavior. So they're not using a distraction.
No,
they're
use the
focusing.
pain.
They're focusing in, and that's what I see where people, I'm getting tired in the race now. Here's my favorite playlist. This is my favorite song, the
go.
Rocky songs. What happens, yes, it revs them up, but they're not thinking about their technique. Their technique goes all the pot. They're just running
Okay.
So once you get tired, the elite runners, and what my mindset is, okay, I'm starting to get tired. It's in the latter stages of the race. Okay, I'm going to focus on relaxation. My arms are tightening up. I'm going to relax my arms, keep my form looking good. I'm focusing in on the pain, relax the fatigue away. I'm going to change my stride and relax. I'm tensing up versus putting on music. That's just going to tense you up even more.
That's
so
true.
that's sort of the difference in the mentality of, you're focusing. They're trying to just block everything out.
And what you're saying is completely true. I mean, I'm trying to think, and I think when I run better, it's when I don't have music on, because I start paying attention to my breathing.
Yep.
To my breathing. Okay, let's focus on the arm. I start paying attention to my body, like be aware of
Yeah.
what is happening, and I feel like I run better. Or actually, like for races, I don't like the music because I try to pay attention.
To me, it's a distraction. I can't even
That's
focus.
true.
A lot of people, I've got to have my song. I got to have my. And of course, I grew up in the old school days when they
Yeah,
didn't
of
even
course.
have Walkmans. Didn't even exist back then.
We had like that huge wall when we had the whole CD.
Yeah, but I mean, I was in days where they were like boom boxes, but no, they had portable, so I mean, and I was just taught to just kind of focus on your body,
Okay.
your breathing, and that in itself. Another thing I see is people being afraid to warm up. I see that lots of times. You go to a race and they're standing there at the
Standing
start,
there.
waiting
Yeah.
for the starting gun. Not even taking one step, because in their mind they're thinking, oh, if I just take one step, I'm going to use up all my energy and warm up. And they see my wife and I doing sprints and striding out, and they just look at me like,
they're wasting
energy.
Oh,
I've overheard people, look at them, they're going to waste their energy. And what if you think about it logically, and the shorter the race, the more you need to warm up.
You need to warm up, that's true.
Like I'll run these...
Like a mile and a half?
The mile races, the 800 meters, half mile, 1 mile race. The warm up, I'll warm up an hour for a 5-minute race.
For a 5-minute race.
Because your body, the longer the race, the less you probably need to warm up, but I even warm up for a marathon. Not as much, but at least
some
I'll warm
type
up
of
something.
movement.
Yeah. A good example, if you think of it logically this way, say I'll use the 5K for example. My wife and I are warming up, right? So
how much do you warm up for? Like a mile, 1 mile and a half?
Probably a mile,
About
and a half.
mile, do a couple of strides.
Yeah, I mean, what we do is I'll block off. I'll get to the race an hour before, so I'll give myself, and that will start the warm up. It's for an hour, but it's really not an hour. But that hour is like including restroom breaks and stretching, and it's sort of a methodical warm up. In total, it's maybe a mile and a half max. We'll do a little like a jog, about maybe 10-minute jog, slow, just to warm up the muscles. And that's called your general warm up, just to get your blood flowing. And then we'll stretch out, the muscles. Now it's more dynamic stretching versus static stretching, because studies have shown the long, slow stretches relaxes the muscle. So we're doing dynamic movements like leg swings, kicks, and jumps, and that you see, because that's stimulating the muscles to fire rapidly.
And to be ready.
And then we'll do our strides just to get your body used to running at that pace. You've got the people standing, our competitors that are standing at the line like, oh, they're going to use up all their energy. The gun goes off. My wife and I are already primed to go at race pace. So we're like, boom, we're running a 6-minute mile pace. They're easing into it. Oh, I'm going to use the first mile to warming up.
They're already wasted.
Well, the thing is, my wife and I'm going to warm up. I'm use the first mile as a 7 or 8 minute mile, and then I'll get down into the 6s, use the first. So I won't use energy. My wife and I we're coming through the first mile at 6 minutes. We're a minute ahead because we've warmed up and our bodies are gone. They never catch us.
Yeah.
They may get their second mile and they're running the same pace as us, but we're so far ahead. So our bodies are warmed up before the race. And I think if you, a lot of it's mental, lack of confidence. If you do the training, and we do everything that we do in training, we do for a race. So we warm up the same way before our speed work as we would do for a race.
So you're already used to it.
We're already used to it. If you've done the training and you're in shape, jogging a 12-minute mile warm up and a couple of strides is not going to waste your energy, because we're doing so much. Our training is so hard that the races are relatively easy. When I was training with the Kenyans, they would tell us, we train so hard that we look forward to the races. The races are easy compared to the way we train. So if you've done the work in training, that's not going to tire you out. So, I think a lot of it's just like self-confidence and, and that's kind of the difference of that next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. All right, David. So any other tips that you have for our listeners or...
I would just say probably just don't be afraid.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just the mentality. Listen to your body. Have a little bit more self-confidence.
Feel that mental strength, right?
Yeah,
That's
a lot of it's
part
mental. And then I think once you get up to a certain level, I see this a lot too, with the mental thing as far as competitors, and you see, oh, I want to beat this person or this person beat me. You've kind of, the next step level is race tactics, and I do this with my clients when we train. I kind of look at each person's strengths and weaknesses because every person's different. My strength is probably more that I'm more speed based, so I'm a faster finisher. Where my wife is more endurance based, so she doesn't maybe have the leg speed, but she's so strong that she can just go from the gun and just go hard the whole way. So what we do is we do little scenarios between ourselves in training. So
That's
when you
nice.
come up to a race, if you're competing against somebody or even yourself, you know your strengths and weaknesses against that other person. You can kind of, and for us, that's the fun part, is testing your strengths and weaknesses against
Okay.
another person, because there may be somebody who you've never beat, but that doesn't mean, or who's beaten you before, but that doesn't mean you can't beat them. I've actually beaten people that I thought that were faster than me by just using tactics and being smart and, just using strategies just to, yeah. And if you look at the top level competitions like the Olympic, on any given day, there's like a group of people that there's, say, 5 or 6 people, that even locally at races here, and any given day, the ability levels are so close, intertwined, like, within their PRs are maybe within 5 seconds of a difference with each other in a 10K or a half marathon, within seconds. Anybody could win on any given day.
And that's true, because we prepare like all the training, but racing, it's another thing.
It's
that
another thing,
you
and people think it's just training.
train with.
You have
Yeah,
to
that's
do
true.
the racing. I've had races where I've
I've
won.
never seen it like that, to be honest. But
Yeah.
yeah, you have to prepare like for.
I've had
for a
races where
race.
I've won and actually even locally here, everybody kind of knows that, oh, here's Dave, he's the track guy, so he's really fast. So they try to run me into the ground, because they know if I'm close to him at the end, I'm going to use my speed and beat him at the finish. Like,
Okay.
if it comes down to the last quarter mile, that they want, because I do a lot of, but it's not because that I'm good. I train that way.
Okay.
But because they don't do speed work, they do a lot of endurance. They're like, oh, well, I'm just going to, tire him out. I'm just going to, from the gun, I'm just going to go
But
really
that's
fast.
something you got to practice too. So if you didn't practice it,
Well, what they'll do is they'll do that,
Uh-huh.
and I'll be with them, and I'll feel like, oh my gosh, this pace is really hard. It's really tough. So, and I'll be struggling to stay with them. So what I'll do is this is what they don't think. I will start slowing down, and they think, oh, he's tiring out. I've beaten him. He's dropping off.
then suddenly you're
I'm resting, and I know how fast I am. I know how much I can spot them until the finish, and I can catch them. So what happens, instead of continuing to push the pace, they
Kind
feel
of
me
like-
dropping it back. They think that I'm tiring out, and they start relaxing, and then they slow down.
That's when
So
you-
I'm tricking them into slowing down the pace. Had they kept that pace,
Don't say that, David. Here.
exactly
I'll go ahead and
right.
block it.
so they slow down, and right at the end, I catch them, and I
Okay.
pass them, because I've tricked them into relax. But that's an example of a strategy that you
strategy for racing.
for racing that people
good.
don't. They just think, oh, I'm just going to go out and just run as fast
as
as I
fast
can.
as I can.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
there's
good. Those are great tips as well.
yeah. So that's another thing is the whole racing. Once you start getting to that level, where you're like, oh my God, I won my age group. I had one client. Like, okay, now I'm a real runner. I got third in my age group, and now I want to beat this guy. And I don't want this lady to beat me. You know how you see them at the races. Oh no, so and so is here, and then they start getting intimidated. And I'm like, I tell them, you know what they're thinking? They're thinking the same thing about you. They're like, oh my gosh, so and so's here, and it becomes this big mental game thing.
That's true. I feel like sometimes even like I don't know, maybe that happens to other listeners. Like I'm like I don't want to say afraid. I don't want to go out to races anymore because of like that. Like
yeah.
who's there with the who,
Yeah.
and it becomes like so. I don't know, tense.
Yeah.
Like uncomfortable. Like you cannot even go and have like a fun race anymore. Just like test yourself, but like you become like kind of like a competition,
Yeah.
like completely with other people.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
And that's where the sports psychology comes in, and that's a
Exactly.
big thing now where
That's
they
a
didn't
big
have that
thing.
before. But a lot of it is just I tell myself if so and so beats me, the world's not going to end. There's going to be another day. I can come back and beat him again. I'm not, and I've learned so much from the Kenyans at UTEP, who are the world-class Olympic athletes. I would see the Americans getting beat, and they would, oh, I suck, I got beat, oh my gosh, and they would just dwell on it for the whole week. A Kenyan gets beat, and he's like, Oh, it's okay.
It's like the next race.
Yeah, next
whatever.
race. Yeah, I'll win next week. That's
fine.
Yeah. And sure enough, next week they win. And the American, they're like dwelling on it, and they just don't, they dwell on it for months, and they have this slump, So you just kind of have to get it out of your mind and just kind of forget. But so much of it's mentally. A lot of the times, my wife and I will show up to races, and they see us and David and Vicky are here. Go ahead, you can get to the starting line. And then I'm like, I tell my wife, we got the race won before the gun even go off. Because automatically, they've automatically defeated themselves. And I tell them, don't say that. How do you know we're not tired?
Yeah,
you don't know, we've been sick. And they just see us because we've won all these races, and they were like, get up to the front. Oh, that's it. I thought I was going to win, but you guys are here. And so I mean, that kind of mentality, you have to kind of get rid of that.
You have to train your psychologist as much as your body.
Because you don't know that, the other person could be thinking the same thing, And I think kind of just a lot of the psychology of it, like with our clients, they kind of have the advantage of, they're like, oh my gosh, they're getting trained by David and Vicky. Oh my gosh, they're going to beat me. And I said, look, you already have the advantage before the gun goes off. No matter how they're scared. And that's it. So and then the person that's scared, you can dictate the race. You can go to the lead. You can slow it down. And they're just going to follow you because they're, I'm going to get beat. I'm going to get beat. So
that's very important to have that mentality. Because, I mean, you can have all the training, but if you don't have the right mentality, well, it's just going to go ahead and put everything to waste.
I've competed against guys that were like a minute faster than me, but I just stuck to them in the race. And because they were mentally weak, they just I wouldn't die off. And I was just like, I'm just going to hold it. I'm just going to hold it. And they didn't, in their mind, they're thinking, I would take the lead and surge. I'd be so tired. I'm like, I don't know. But I would just speed up anyway, and they didn't know. In their mind, they're like, "Oh my gosh, he's," But I'm just as tired as they are, but they don't know that. So you kind of have to think, okay, he's just as tired as me, and it's a lot of it's just self-confidence, relaxation, and just sort of, going with the flow and not being intimidated by, And to us at that level, with the competitive, the age group, it's so much, to me, it's so much fun, the tactical part. I guess we like the pressure,
Yeah, you like that. I can see you completely enjoying it. But you guys are phenomenal runners. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, David, for being here. I enjoyed so much your conversation and your stories and learning more about you. I mean, I always see you guys follow you. I look up to you guys. You're fantastic. You're amazing. Not only local runners, but nationally. You're a legend in Philly. So I have David Jackson from Philly with me, guys, today. So, well, thank you so much. Any last words that you want to say to our listeners, or to look you up, for coaching?
Yeah, look me up for coaching. We've got. Call Up and Running,
Call Up and Running.
Our business cards are there. We're on Facebook, Instagram. You can reach out. Messenger.
All right.
At races. So if you want some tips, want some training, my wife and I are both certified running coaches and personal trainers, and we love what we're doing. We do it full time.
They have the heart of it. And I think that's the most important thing. You're not only good runners, you're great coaches, but also have that passion and that love, that you pass out to new runners.
Yeah, and I'm glad for you to have me here to just kind of
share
some of my experience, knowledge, and stories.
We learn so much from each other. I love talking to people because you learn so much from them. You get inspired. Either you get inspired, you learn from them. It's just part of that running community that we might be competitors in some part, but at the same time we support each other. We just grow each other, learn from each other. So I just love having people here and
I think that's what brought me into running that I really liked, is that you were competitive on the track or the road. But it's not like other sports where they hate their competitors. And after the race, everybody's partying and having fun. And
everybody has their own story, we're it looks like the same thing, but it's not. Everybody has their own story, their own physiology, their own abilities, their own skills, and everything. We're so different at the same time, but yeah, we support each other and we learn from each other. So that's the whole point of it. If you're not doing it for fun, if you're not loving it, you're in for the wrong reasons, right? Right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to check out these, follow the podcast, Spotify and YouTube. If you have any comments, if you have any recommendations for guests or somebody that you would like me to have, make sure to send me a message. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you on the next one.